What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of El Jardín Perdido. Today, we're planting a citrus tree. Alright guys, so it's late January, and the reason why I want to get at least one of my two citrus in the ground is because A, it's feels pretty root bound. I'm picking up the pot, it's really light, which usually indicates that the roots are kind of taken over. It's time to transplant. Another reason why I want to do this early is because if you put a citrus tree out in the summer in Houston, Texas, where it's triple digits, it's going to get singed. This is actually a cold hardy. It's a Satsuma. It's actually called Arctic Frost, so it should do really well. I am braving it a little bit. We're going into February, which is kind of the last leg, any chance of frost. But I'm pretty confident that it'll be okay. Any new growth might get a little bit singed. For it to acclimate and get its roots nice and established this time of year is a lot more beneficial so that it can handle our summers. So I also have a Tangelo that I'm debating on putting in the ground. They're fairly cold tolerant as well. Most oranges and citruses of that nature can handle Houston winters, but that's debatable. My main objective right now is just walking you guys through how I would transplant a citrus into the ground. You guys will probably notice that it's looking a little dainty. What happened was, when I first got it a few months ago, I attempted to do a ton of multi-grafts on it, and I put it in the greenhouse, all of which weren't doing so great, so I decided against that. Not every rootstock is going to be a good candidate for grafting. It could also be that while I use some cleft grafts, it'd probably do better off with T-buds. But this isn't a grafting video. I just wanted to explain why it is very healthy. It is root bound though, but once we get it into the ground, it's just more motivation for me to get it more well established and really get it taken off come spring. All right guys, so this is what we're working with. It's going to be in pretty close proximity to the elderberry here, but really the elderberry is not something that's going to compete with citrus all that much. If it were another citrus, yeah, that'd be close proximity. But if you guys know me, you know my channel, you know that I like getting things pretty friendly in here and tucking things together pretty tightly. But my main thing here is I'm going to clear out all this grass quite a bit. Kind of the same as you see with the elderberry here. I like having a lot of mulch around it, and I can plant little beds and stuff, and that's all good. But yeah, I probably want it centered about here, looking for it to have clearance with branching. That's okay if it touches on one side. It's going to shoot up, and I'm probably going to train it to be like around 10 to 15 feet. So I'd say this is a nice, comfortable area for it. And what I'm going to start doing is, I may even dig this bed, kind of, use a little bit of nice landscaping technique and kind of make this flow a little better. But my main objective is clearing out a lot of this, and then we're going to amend the soil here. You'll also notice that I have this mounded up a little bit, and I plan on doing the same with the Satsuma here, because in Houston we can flood pretty bad. We're on a downslope here, so water shouldn't stand too badly, but in case we get a hurricane or something next hurricane season, I do want it to be a little bit above the plain. Alright, so my son's out here to help me in a few minutes, but really all I'm going to do is kind of start taking out grass around this area. I might actually start in the middle and start working my way out. And I'm actually going to use some of this grass as sod for the side of my house where we could use a little more grass right now. Yeah, so really, I'm not going to show you guys the entire process of this, but I will give you the gist real quick that we're just kind of going through here. Really good time to do this too, because we just got a lot of rain, so the soil's not too compacted, it's also not too saturated, so it's perfect. So what I typically do is is I'll start with something like this and start shaking out some of this dirt. Go ahead and use that. So I'm going to recycle this dirt back in here. And then I've got some sod for later. Alright, we're starting from the center, but the main thing is, actually I'm just going to peel this up, but we're going to go around this hole and see what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Put it in, peel it up.
And then where do you put it? Right here?
Just the grass goes there, and then the dirt stays in the hole. So you can start going like, start here.
Okay.
Ooh, a little tough, huh? You really use your feet. Okay, so as of now, we have everything pretty much dug out. I may tweak this just a little bit for aesthetic reasons. But as you can see, we have all this grass and most of the roots are worked out. My son Aiden here is working it a little bit more, breaking things up, getting some roots out. And then once we're finished that, we're gonna go ahead and grab some potting soil and amend this soil just a little bit, and I'll walk you through that. Okay guys, so now we're at the point where we're gonna amend the soil. I'm not sponsored by these guys or anything like that. This is just my preference, but ideally an organic soil, and I'm using kind of like a bedding soil. So if you use potting soil, that might be too light. If you use anything too heavy or organic, that might be too much. Seeing that I have really heavy organic clay soil, this is just going to kind of loosen things up a little, as well as provide a lot of nutrients. So basically I'm just going to work this into the entire mound. I'm gonna kind of just pour it on, and we're gonna just mix it in there. This is gonna give the plant a boost, but most people just put it in the immediate root ball, and what happens is the plant has to adapt to the native environment. If you're spreading it all over, so it gets a little boost, but it still has to deal with the native soil, by the time the roots are well established, it'll be ready to just take on your native soil completely. Okay. Yeah. All right. Can I see your shovel?
Oh, shovel.
All right. So this mound looks really big right now. This is kind of fluffed up material, but what we're gonna do is first kind of evenly disperse it, and really we're just going to start mixing everything together pretty well here. So once we get that all mixed up, we'll come back and we're gonna kind of look at things, evaluate it, dig a hole for the root ball here, and maybe loosen up the roots a little bit, break them up, get it set in there, and I'll show you the next steps. All right guys, so our soil is amended. I'm gonna go ahead and take a look at the root ball, see what we're dealing with. I do recommend not disturbing it too much unless you have to, but as you can see, I'll bring it close up. This has been thoroughly watered with the rest of my plants, and you see there's a lot of matting here. I'm gonna have to break this up a little bit, which is good because I just pruned things so it won't disrupt the growth that much. But right now I'm gonna eye it first, see where I want things. I think you guys don't have to dig a hole quite this big. I double it up as a bed as well as kind of a hole. I'm gonna make sure I give it enough space there. I think that's a relatively good spot, although I could dig that out a little further. I think this will be fine. So I'm just gonna kind of mark that. And we're gonna work on the roots real quick. And I guess I'll bring you guys close up to see that, what I'll be doing as far as breaking up the roots. All right guys, so I'm gonna dig a loose hole here first, but I don't wanna go too nuts because after I loosen up the ball here, it may not need the same depth, but I'm just gonna kind of give myself something to work with here. And yeah, So yeah, I was gonna show you guys what we're gonna do here. This really actually needs a little more moisture, but I'm just massaging. These roots aren't that delicate, so they're not really breaking up too much, which is good. But yeah, we're just gonna massage the root ball a little bit, detangle some things. It is pretty root bound here, so we're gonna rectify that. Go ahead, what?
Deeper hole.
I'll let you know when we need it. So yeah, just going around, massaging things out. Looks a little aggressive, but to be honest, one of the worst things you can do is leave it like this. Your tree's another 10 years older. You're gonna have some real problems when things are knotted up. You'll see I even broke up some of this. I think it's so bad I'm actually gonna soak it in some water for a minute, and then we're gonna loosen things up that way. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and just,
How long are you gonna have it soaked in there?
not too long. So right now I've got the hose filling this up. We're getting this really, really nice and hydrated, which is a good idea anyway if we're transplanting like this. But Aiden, can you turn off the hose? Turn it to the right. Yeah, so we're getting it hydrated, and that's already helping out immensely. We lose some soil and stuff, that's fine. But I'm just doing the same thing, massaging. Hopefully we don't lose any more of the root mass, but we have to prune it a little bit, that's fine too. So I'm just gonna submerge it and massage it. And it may look a little drastic once I pull this out, but as long as most of the major roots are intact, we're gonna be off to a really good start. So right now, I'm just detangling what I can. If a few things crisscross, that's fine, but that mat was way too much. A lot of people will just plop their trees right in the ground like that, and you're gonna have problems down the road. And like I said, it's good because I just pruned the top. So usually if you're gonna prune the roots or anything, it's good to take some of the foliage off so it doesn't have to work so hard. So yeah, like I said, the hole may need to be amended depending on how this comes out. This is pretty radical. I'm gonna have to really water this in when I'm done to make sure all these roots aren't exposed to any air once it's underneath. But long term, this is a great thing, and it's gonna bounce back a lot harder once I take care of this. So I have some knots in here I'm literally just pulling out, and that's fine. We're still working with a fairly good root mass here. All right guys, so it looks very drastic, but this is what we're left with. And I'm gonna go ahead, most trees have kind of a tap root where this could be detrimental. Citrus and stuff, they wanna sprawl out a little more when they're first beginning. So we're gonna kinda get it in the ground and kind of space out its roots a little bit. And so it'll have plenty of room to sprawl out, do its thing, and then it can start tapping a little deeper in the upcoming years. So I'm just kind of eyeing things up. Okay.
Like 10.
She's probably eating her tacos right now.
No, she's getting exhausted.
Okay, so right now I'm kind of eyeing things up, making sure things lay how I want them. The roots have plenty of room to travel, and also that I'm not going to bury it past the graft line or anything. I'm going to bury it exactly where it was. But right now I'm just making sure the roots have plenty of space to get where they need. Okay, and I'm just gonna step back, look at proximity here, look at everything and make sure it's where I want it. I might actually pivot this so it's not competing immediately with the elderberry. But yeah, same principle. Just make sure the roots.
Do you want me to empty the water out somewhere?
Actually, Aiden, I'll show you that in a sec. We're gonna empty it. That's too heavy. We're gonna empty it here. Material from the pot. Make sure we're straight early on. That looks pretty good. Okay guys, so we're at a pretty good spot. Last thing I might do is kind of gently, firmly press things in.
What's that thing?
That's a grub. Feed it to the chickens. All right, and I'm just gonna go ahead and pour all this water back in and around it. Still has a lot of potting mix and stuff. So that'll be the first good soak that it gets. What I'm doing with this mound is kind of having a flat surface rather than a berm. And things will settle in pretty quickly, but all this is going to actually settle down a few inches within a few months. So it looks kind of obnoxious now, but it's actually good. I'm making sure the surface roots are where they should be and everything. And then I have kind of a ditch along the side here, so excess water can stay here. Roots can get to it if they need to. So this works relatively well for my area. All right, the last thing we're gonna do is grab some mulch and just dress the entire thing with a few inches of mulch. Ideally, I should have just used a knife. All right, so I'm gonna put it on here, but then we gotta spread it around.
I got a little.
Thanks. All right, so if you see what I'm doing, Aiden, I'm gonna spread it. So now we're just spreading the mulch around, keeping
Like
it,
this?
yeah, spread it all over the mound. Basically just a few inches all over the mound. And you're gonna keep it away from the trunk directly, but you'll get the idea. You know how to plant a tree like a professional now, but not just plump it in the ground. That's what everyone else does. They're just like, don't. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today's video. The last thing I'm going to do is water this in really heavily. Make sure all that soil and everything in the compost, everything's settling really well, setting in. The roots are well hydrated, and there's also no air pockets are in there or anything like that. But yeah, that's going to do it for today's video. This turned into a bit more of a predicament than I thought. If you guys look at my white sapote video, I did a similar thing. I really took a lot of the roots out. It's also related to citrus as well. And I was a little weary about it, but it bounced back with vengeance. So while it may look drastic, doing this is really important. We gave it, you know, most people will probably just dig a hole, plop a tree in there. We did everything we should be doing. I'll probably do a little foliar spray on it, like a seaweed extract. Probably put a little of that in the roots too, diluted. And yeah, you give your trees a nice head start like this, give them the care they need, they'll thank you later. So maybe in a few months I'll do an update on this, let you guys know how it's doing. If I get any hard frosts this next month, I may put some protection around this, just because it's kind of in a fragile state after messing with the roots like that and everything. All right, guys. Well, again, that's going to do it for today's video. Be sure and comment if you have anything to add or you have any questions. And if you haven't subscribed by now, consider doing so. I have a lot of videos of this nature as well as grafting and other different tutorials. All right, guys. Again, that's going to do it for today's video. As always, thanks for tuning in. Until next time.